Hello, everybody. It is September the 11th, 2021, 20 years after the horrific terrorist attack on the United States. And this is a special episode of the American Doofus Show. The episode was recorded, and halfway through the episode, we lost electricity for a few moments and lost internet. So it's in two parts. It's going to be kind of cut together. And in 2001, I was the host of a morning show on the radio, as well as a minister with United Methodist Church. I was serving two churches at that time in the pulpits. And I was also a member of the state emergency response team as a pastor. And what I remember of that morning, we had just finished the 9 o'clock newscast. It was the last newscast until noon. And my cohort on the show was Randy Clemmy. And the name of the show was The Big Show. And the reason we were called The Big Show is Randy is a big man. He was a championship wrestler, at one time ranked in the top 500 in the world. Now you may say, wow, top 500. But when you consider all the independent wrestling organizations all around the world, and the fact that the big well-known organizations probably have 400 of the top 500. Being in the top 500 was a pretty nice accomplishment. That's also how I was able to take part in childhood dreams and be a part of a couple of professional wrestling events. And this face that you see on the screen was our soon-to-be news director. She was a news person in training, being trained by the then current news director. And what we're going to do, we're going to hear the interview with her and her side of the story. And I'm going to stop and add some things as we go along on this September 11th episode. And I'm just going to start with my perspective. I got there about 10 minutes till 6. We went on the air at 6. And I generally did all my prep for the show the night before. So I had everything ready as far as jokes, comedy gags, voices I was going to be using or had pre-recorded for comedy segments. And we did our show up until 9 o'clock, and we did the 9 o'clock news and then a little brief comedy thing. And then I was going to go from 9 to 10. I go from about 9:15 to 10 with just pretty much music and not a lot of talking. And after the 9 o'clock news, after that break, I always turned the TV on in the studio. And you weren't supposed to have the TV on in the studio, but I turned it on every morning from 9 to 10 just to get caught up on what was going on in the world. So I turned the TV on to CNN, and it was about 9:15. And they were showing the two twin towers in New York City on fire. And Randy Clemmy was the program director at the time. And after he got done with the news and our little comedy exchange or whatever it was we tried to make it funny. It wasn't always, but he went back into his office, and I was in the studio, and I saw that, and I went in and I told him, and they turned the TV on, small TV on in the newsroom, And it's not like we jumped into action and we immediately started covering the story. It was like, how in the world did two planes hit the World Trade Center? And then about 9:30, 9:35, somewhere in that range, I don't remember the exact time, I was back in watching in the studio and changing songs as one would end. I'd go into the next song and got notification that the Pentagon had been struck. Well, there's no doubt now that we're in war. We're being attacked. And at that time, we had absolutely no idea how many planes were taken, where they were. And we had a lot more questions than we had answers. And we were told, I was told, just keep playing music and we'll figure this out. Well, as I mentioned, I was also a minister in the United Methodist Church at that time. I'm still a minister of the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm just not in a pulpit, and I prefer it that way. And I got a phone call that I was supposed to call the district office. It's actually the conference. There was a Southern Conference and a Northern Conference that oversaw all the ministers, and I was supposed to call the conference office. And at that time, they thought as many as 50,000 people could have been killed in Washington, D.C., or in New York City alone, let alone Washington, D.C., and what else was coming. So the church immediately thought of, we're going to have to perform a bunch of funerals. Let's make sure we've got ministers lined up. So being on the emergency response team, that was something else that was brought to my attention at that time, and stuff like that weighs incredibly heavy on you. But nonetheless, we went on the air and started broadcasting and letting people know what we knew as it came in. I've often been asked, what's the biggest story you ever worked on? And I was fortunate enough, I've met every past president of the United States that's living except Donald Trump. It's, I've got to do a lot of things and I've got to cover a lot of things, but far and away up until this point, and I hope it is a continuation. That 9/11 is by far and away the biggest story I ever covered. We went on through that day. Kristen will talk a little bit about it in the interview. And then the next morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, we started something called Pennies from Heaven. And the idea was, as the day went along, as 9/11 went along and we were broadcasting, you felt more and more helpless. You didn't know, you felt like, I got to do something, and what we did was the next morning, we started broadcasting at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we broadcast live for 12 hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And when I say we, I mean me and Randy and Kristen showed up, and we did 12 hours live, and the concept was we had the station band out there. We had 55-gallon trash drums, and we just wanted people to bring their spare change by and drop it in the bucket, and we were going to get it to the American Red Cross. And the idea was we wanted to raise 1 million pennies in 12 hours, which was $10,000. And that was one of the most grueling, one of the most rewarding, one of the most blessed days I ever spent, with people coming in with pickle jars, with piggy banks, with bags, dropping their change into these buckets. And we were giving them a station T-shirt or a up and coming artist CD, or we were giving out swag as the day went along and promoting the station, but at the same time, that was not even close to what it was about. It was about everybody wanted to feel like that there was something they could do, even if it was some small thing, and that brought a lot of the country together, and that brought pride in the flag, and that brought pride in the country. And 20 years later, it's incredibly twisted, and but that's now, and we go back to then. Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. It is the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Blessings to all of you. Peace, shalom, salam, namaste. Greetings to everyone. We try to be inclusive here. It is Saturday morning, September 11th, 2001. 20 years ago, it was Tuesday morning, September 11th, 2001. It was the largest terrorism attack ever on United States soil. People that are 27, 26, 25 and younger may not remember much or anything at all about what happened that day. And on this 20th anniversary, there are going to be a lot of shows that focus on Washington, D.C., that focus on the Twin Towers in New York, and of course, on the flight that went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But we're going to give a little bit different perspective. We're going to go back 20 years. I want to welcome a guest. She was Kristen Dyward at the time, if I remember right. Kristen Clevenger now. Hi, Kristen.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Tell the people what you did 20 years ago.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it was my first day alone in the news. I'd been training for about 3 weeks, and the guy who was training me had just gotten suspended the day before. And so I was on my own for the first time ever. And
Matt?
Yes, I think so.
All right.
I've been trying forever to remember that. Yeah, I think it was me. So I started my day like usual because I wasn't on the
all right. I sorry to interrupt. Let the viewers know what radio station you were at.
We were at WIFE 100.3 out of Connersville, Indiana.
And you were the
I was the news director, new news director.
the brand new first day on the job news director.
Right.
And how did you know me?
I knew you because you were the morning show. You were part of the morning show. So it was you and Randy were the morning show.
Yes.
So
your first day on the job.
The first day alone on the job.
September 11th.
September 11th, 2001. I wasn't on the air yet, but I was doing the news stuff. So
you wrote the news and Randy read it, right?
Right.
It was kind of at that time, and then the next week you were going to come on the news.
Yeah.
And then he was going to move to comic sidekick.
Yeah, yeah.
And Randy may be joining us.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. But go ahead.
So my day started out every day with going to like the police departments to get police reports, and I always started out at the state police barracks there in Connersville. So I had just walked in to the state police barracks. I was sitting there with the on-call, I can't remember what they called him, the sergeant on call there. And it was Sergeant Comer. I remember that, Steve Comer. I sat down and he had the TV on, and we started watching, and I was like, well, what's going on? He said, a plane just hit one of the Twin Towers in New York. And I was like, wow. So we sat there and watched. And then all of a sudden, I look and I said, what is that? And he's like, what? And I said, look right there. I said, that looks like another plane. And he said, it sure does, doesn't it? And then all of a sudden we watched it hit the second tower. And I just like froze. And I looked at him and I said, I don't know what to do right now. And of course, this was before I had a cell phone or anything like that, because, 20 years ago, not everybody had cell phones. So I looked at him and I said, can I use your phone? And he said, yeah. So then I called the station, and I can't remember if I talked to John, our general manager, or if I talked to Randy, one or the other. I said, there's something going on. What do you want me to do? And they said, drop what you're doing, get to the station now. I said, I'm on it. So I drove very fast to the station and got there, and I was at a loss. I didn't know what to do, but you and Randy like took over, and we broke into programming. I remember that. And you guys started reporting on what was going on. And as we got more information in, you guys kept breaking in. Well, I think we went like nonstop talk that morning, if I remember correctly.
I loved that.
It was right up your alley.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. If it had been for station ownership and management, it would have been all talk, because I'd get a country music artist on there, and we'd end up talking for half an hour.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But I asked them, I'm like, well, do you want me to go on? Do you want what? And they're like, no, just hang out, watch the TV, get any updates you can, give it to us as soon as you get anything. And I mean, it was just so different. It was solemn, and everybody was quiet, but anxiety was through the roof, and nobody really knew what to do. And I remember the powers that be said, nobody's leaving the station today. We're all staying here. They ordered pizza in. And I remember my first instinct, I called my sister and said, hey, because my nieces were at school, and I said, hey, why don't you go pick them up from school today? And then my two kids were home with my mother-in-law at the time. They were only 2 and 3. So I called and checked on them, and said, don't go anywhere. Don't do anything. Just stay home. I'll be home as soon as I can. And I just remember that we didn't leave the station that evening until like 6 or so. And driving home seemed like the longest drive ever, and it was just all day long. I did get put on, I think, for a couple times. Randy had me read the news, but I was so nervous. It was horrible. And he's like, okay, I got this. So
what are friends for?
Right? So, I mean, lots happened in 20 years.
Okay, where are you at now? You're still in radio.
I am still in radio. I'm no longer in news. I determined a long time ago that A, there's no money in it, and B, there's
yes.
Yeah, news is very time consuming.
Oh, tell me about it. I do a news and political show here online. People have no idea how much time you actually put in.
It's insane.
To the 10 minutes or 15 minutes that you actually broadcast.
Right. I mean, I remember when things got going, I was working easily 80 hours a week, and I was on call 24/7.
Yeah.
And it took a toll on my first marriage. I mean, that really did, I think, end my first marriage. And
Radio is known to do that.
Huh?
Radio is known to do that.
Yeah, especially news.
Yeah.
And I swore to my boys when they were little that I would never get back into the news. As much as I loved doing news, it was in my blood. That's what I want to do. But
back doing it. You'll be back doing it once the boys are gone. Yeah.
Well, they're 22 and 23 now, and then my daughter is 16. But I'm where I'm at now. The station I'm at now is WIKI in Madison, and our sister station WSCH out of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and we're country music stations. And my main job is sales.
That's where the money's at.
But we're a very small operation. Yeah, that's definitely where the money's at. But we're such a small operation. I mean, in our location, there's 3 of us full time, and I'm the only full time salesperson. So
there are three people running the station, not 3 sales people. There are 3 people that actually, because everything's kind of computerized now, you don't have disc jockeys, you don't have board operators, you don't have
it's myself and then our news guy, who I actually, my boss put me in charge of supervising news because he was new and the one before him was new, fresh, young, just out of college and everything. She's like, you know what you're doing. I want you to train them. So I supervise the news, but I don't do it. And then, so it's just the 2 of us. And then our morning show host, he's live every day. And then he does production. But I also fill in on production. I work on our social media pages. I work on our website. I do all the graphics and stuff for any of our sales packages or anything like that in our social media and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I wear many hats, but after 20 years in the business, it's not hard because I've kind of done a little bit of everything.
And you have to do it. You have to at smaller stations.
Yeah. So, but you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't think I could ever work for one of those big conglomerates. I couldn't work for any of those national news companies or radio companies. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I could never do it.
Be too disciplined.
I can never do it for very long. I'm amazed I lasted anywhere as long as I did because I didn't care about rules. I didn't care about time clocks or commercial stops. Especially if I was talking to Mindy McCready or
Tammy Cochran and
the dude that's now on The Voice. Back then,
Blake Shelton. Yeah,
Blake Shelton was one of my up and coming stars on a Friday morning.
Right. I know. I got to go meet him backstage and hang out with him, and that was back when he still had his mullet.
Okay, back to 9/11. To my viewers, thank you for hanging with us here. We haven't talked extensively in 20 years. And again, we were hoping Randy Clemmy, who was one of the key integral parts of everything that happened. Back to 9/11. It's been said it's the day that changed. Okay, this is about where we this is about where we stopped. And okay. Hang with me here. It's the Doofus Show. Let me find part 2 of the interview. And okay, did I lose it again? Okay, a little bit of craziness here, internet connection wise. It's the way we do things here in the 21st century. Did 9/11, 2001, it's been described as a date that changed everything. Do you feel that way?
100%.
Okay.
I think, I mean, it changed it changed travel. It changed the way everybody looked at the world. It changed the way we watch over our families. It feels like every aspect of our lives were affected in some way. I mean, not only did we lose a lot of people, it affected people with their mental health. I knew people at the time who went through severe depression and anxiety. I mean, people who didn't even know anybody that were killed or harmed still went through the depression and anxiety of the moment, of the time. But at the same time, it brought us together as a country like we've never seen before. Unfortunately, that was short-lived.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, the patriotism and the pride that we saw at the time. And I mean, I was only 28 when all that happened, so I hadn't seen a whole lot of stuff like that in my life. You know, it was I felt like I was really young at the time.
Yeah.
Looking back,
do you feel like you were attacked?
Yes.
Okay. Because I heard that a lot back then. You know, even though I wasn't in Washington or on one of the planes or in the Twin Towers, I feel like I was attacked. People said that a lot back then.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do you think that that pride, that patriotism, that hatred of other people that came along with it, do you think that has continued to grow
I do.
Where we are at now?
Well, the patriotism has gone in a whole new direction. But unfortunately, the hatred towards other people from other countries, other races, and other religious beliefs, that has gone off the rails since then. I mean, it's gone to extremes.
No, you're not going to believe this, but I've got viewers literally all over the world. And talk to them about what it's like in rural southeastern Indiana.
It's a whole bunch of rednecks. But
it is. I mean,
it is. I mean, we're like right across the river from Kentucky, where there's a whole new breed of rednecks. I
got a bunch of viewers from Louisville, so hey, Louisville.
All right, we're talking about
she's from
northeastern Kentucky. They get it. Yeah, we're upriver. There's not a lot of diversity around here, you know. So those who are different stand out, and unfortunately, there's still a lot of racism, for lack of a better word, you know, and probably more so around here than what there is in other places, I think.
Do you think it is because of a lack of understanding?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Because people don't, you know, there was a survey that 75% of white people do not have a regular conversation with a person other than another white person on a weekly basis. And people are like, that's crazy. And I'm like, there's so many areas where there are nothing but white people. And the only perception they have of the Black community is through media, whether it be music, television, motion picture, or sports. Right.
And not just Black people, but I mean, Jewish, Muslim, Latino. There's just not a lot of that, especially in rural America. You know, I mean, we probably have a pretty good Latino community here. But even so, it's still a definite minority, and they feel the effects of the racism here. They
kind of stick to their own because it's safe and it's secure, and white Americans have an absolutely horrible reputation around the rest of the world. We think we're the greatest people in the world. The rest of the world thinks we're a bunch of hateful, ignorant thugs that just want to kill everybody because we're at a point where we're wanting to kill each other.
Right.
And it's asinine.
Yes, it is 100%. If more people would just take the time to say hello, have a small conversation, get to know somebody, it's amazing what this world could be.
I have conversations on here. My favorite conversations are always when I have a strong Black man on here talking with me, because people in the white community don't see those conversations take place because they don't take place often enough.
No, they don't. They don't. Unfortunately.
Well, Kristen, will you come back on the program sometime?
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for being here. You have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thank all of you for watching. Okay. That was the interview. And September 11th, 2001, 20 years ago. It's something we'll never forget. It's something that those of us that remember it will always remember it. Those that don't have a memory of it will never fully understand or appreciate what that day did to people as individuals, to organizations, to countries. And it totally changed our way of life. Arguably not for the better. And now we find ourselves on September 11th, 2021 with deja vu all over again. We've just left Afghanistan, where we had been for the past 20 years. The Twin Towers were brought down, the attack on the Pentagon, the attempted attack on the US Capitol, all originated because of Afghanistan. And 20 years later, Afghanistan should be on the forefront of the news as it is a perilous and tumultuous potential situation to once again impact the world, just as happened 20 years ago on this September the 11th. Just something to think about. We don't tell you what to think or how to think, just give you things to think about. It's the American Doofus Show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with another episode real soon. Hit the subscribe, like, share, comment if you would. Love y'all. It's a dark day, always will be for me. It's a dark world, but doesn't mean